Welcome to Easter at Hope Church. We are so glad you are joining with us today. If you are new here or would like to find out more about our church, visit us at hopekansas.church. We encourage you to enter into worship today. Whatever space you are in, make it a sacred space. We believe God has something unique to say to you, and our hope is that you feel His love stronger today than ever before. Now get ready for some heartfelt worship and a great message from our series, Out of Darkness.
You have turned my mourning into dance and put off my rags and clothed me with gladness, and I will arise and I will praise you. I'll sing and not be silent. Amen. You have turned my mourning into dance and put off my rags and clothed me with gladness, and I will arise and I will praise you. I'll sing and not be silent. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you. Amen. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good to me. You turn my mourning into dance and put off my rags and clothe me with gladness, and I will rise and I will praise you. I'll sing and I'll be silent. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good to me. You turn my mourning into dance and put off my rags, clothe me with gladness, and I will rise and I will praise you. I'll sing and I'll be silent. Sing it out, church. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you forever. Oh Lord, my God, I will give thanks to you. Amen. Amen. You have turned my mourning into dance and put off my rags. Sing it out. And I will rise and I will praise you. I'll sing, not be silent. You turn my mourning into dance and put off my rags, clothe me with gladness, and I will arise and I will praise you. I'll sing and not be silent. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Sing it again. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah, yeah. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah, stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Oh, way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you
We've set up a simple way for you to give to our church online. If you want to give a quick gift, enter an amount, select a fund, then enter your email address and your first and last name. Then enter your payment details and click Give. And that's it. We'll send a receipt to your email address. To use a saved payment method or manage a recurring donation, you'll want to log in. Click the Login button and we'll send a code to your phone or email account. Verify the code and you're in. Now your payment info is ready to go when you want to make a donation. To manage your giving details, switch over to the My Giving page. Here you'll see more ways you can give. You can also add a payment method, like a bank account or a debit card, set up a recurring donation, and view your giving history.
Life has a way of throwing you things that you didn't expect, both good and bad, things that you had no idea were coming your way. Now, even though life is like that, there are still those moments that totally take you by surprise, or moments that forever change your life. That's kind of what I want to walk you through today. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Bartimaeus. Now, I grew up in a way that I kind of viewed life as kind of an outcast, somebody that wasn't worth much to anyone. I grew up in such a way that I didn't have a whole lot of friends. Now, the reason I felt kind of like an outcast is when I was small, people would make their children play with me and spend time with me, and I would do what I needed to do. But as I grew up in adulthood, I kind of got shoved to the side, and I hung out with people that were much like me. They were the beggars of society, the outcasts, the people that really no one cared about. And it was a natural thing to have happened. I mean, I was born blind. And because I was born blind, I found myself just around the people like that. Now, I called them friends, but in a way they weren't really friends. We were all fighting for the same coins and the same things from people. We just wanted their acceptance. We wanted them to make us part of what was going on. And so we were okay as friends until we had to fight over what scraps were there for us to have. You know, you grow up that way. You grow up angry at God, angry at people. You're just angry because you don't want to be the way that you are, but you're kind of stuck. You're angry because, well, I'm blind. I was born this way. I can't help myself. It's the anger that you feel when you hear people around you saying things or talking about you, and you can't even see them, and you think that maybe they think that because you're blind, you also can't hear. But actually, your ears become more sensitive, and you hear those little words, and you hear those thoughts that they are saying outward that they didn't think they were saying. But probably the greater hurt is the fact that you can't see those who do love you. And you can't see those who do say they care about you. You can't see your mother or father or your friends that tell you they love you and care. You never see the expression. See, blindness is living in this shell of darkness. It's living your life in darkness, never seeing what others see, never experiencing that wonderful moment of seeing what others are seeing. I was from the town of Jericho. Now, Jericho is just a little ways down the road from Jerusalem, about 12 miles down the road. Not a whole lot took place in our city. You probably know that it's the most famous for the walls. When our forefathers came in and conquered the land, the walls of Jericho fell down, and that's the story that everyone tells. It's kind of out of the way, not a whole lot of things going on there. But in that city of Jericho, still things get to us. I mean, we hear about things even though we're off the beaten path. And so we in that town of Jericho had heard about this man Jesus. You know, traders would come through, or as we're out begging on the road, people would come and you would hear them talk. And several of the things that we had heard, that there were huge crowds of people that were following him. I'd also heard that he actually could heal those that were sick, and we'd actually heard that he had healed blind people, and so that caused a little bit of hope. And at the same time, we're pretty cynical because there were a lot of people that traveled around at that time and claimed different things, and so you're a little cynical. You really don't know what they're talking about. We had also heard that wherever he went, especially in Jerusalem and in those main big cities, that there were a lot of religious leaders that did not care for him and actually would like to have got him to be quiet. And so you would hear that amongst the religious leaders of our community. They might say something, they might talk about the fact that they don't care for him. We'd heard that he'd cast out demons, and I remember telling some of the people that I hung out with, I wouldn't mind seeing that, because that's probably something that's amazing, that he would cast out demons. But we had heard of him, and then one day, in the midst of all the stuff going on, we heard that it was rumored that Jesus was going to travel through our region, through Jericho, that he was walking with his followers through that area. So after doing a little bit of investigating and talking to people, I found out that the day he was going to come, and I thought, okay, I'm going to come up with a plan here. Now, you got to understand that my plan is based on the fact that I'm a beggar, and I wanted to get what I could get out of this crowd. So I hatched this plan, And the plan was very simple. As you come into Jericho, as you get into the edge of the city, all the beggars are there. That's where we hung out, on the edge of the city. Those that nobody wants to spend time with, those that are kind of disgusting and the outcasts of our society. But if you go down about a mile down the road from Jericho, there's a curve. And in that curve, we refer to it as beggars as the well. That's the place that we wanted to go, because if you could get folks before they got into the city, before they got angry at those people that are hitting them up for money and hitting them up for what they have, they were a little more generous. They were kind, if you will, because they hadn't been hit up by everybody. So my thought was, this crowd is going to be huge if the rumors are true. And since this crowd is going to be so huge, it would be great to be at that spot. And if I could get at that spot, then maybe I could get more than any of the other beggars. And I could really bank on these people coming by. And so as I plotted this together and I got this plan, I got a friend of mine named Obadiah. He was a childhood friend who would lead me to different places and take care of me and kind of watch over when I needed some help. So I sat down with him and told him my plan of getting out there very early. And of course, when I offered to him that I would give him some of the coins that were given a percentage of what I got that day, he was all in with my plan. And so that day I arranged to get up very early, the day that I knew that I'd heard that Jesus and this crowd of people were going to come into our city. So I got up really early, and Obadiah came to my house, and he was going to get me. I got on my begging clothes, which is all that I had, and I get this ready, and Obadiah tells me as we're walking out that the sun is just coming up and says, we are so early. And he led me outside, and we went down that road for a while, and he set me down right at that area. And I told him, just leave me alone, come back later on and get me, but I want to be right there. And I had sat there for a little while when I began to hear the other beggars coming out, people leading them out or them coming out on their own. And they began to shout at me and yell and curse me and hassle me for getting up so early and getting the prime spot. And I just laughed at them. I said, hey, look, if you bums would get out of bed, you could have had this spot. I got up. I did what I needed to do to get my spot on this road, to get the prime spot. Hey, the early beggar gets the coinage. So I was there in my spot. I said, just leave me there, like I had said. And I'm sitting there. The sun is coming out. It's starting to warm up. A few people are wandering by. And as I hear them come down the road, I put out my coin purse and ask them to put some money in. And you'll get a few drops of change here and there. And then as I'm sitting there, I can begin to hear down the road a rustling noise. And it's getting louder and louder. And you can tell it's a large crowd. And you can tell that this is a lot of people coming my way. And so I just begin to think, could this be the crowd that Jesus is in? Because this is not normal for this amount of people to be coming down the road at one time. And so as I listened, it was like a dull roar. It got louder and louder and louder. And then when it was not very far away from me, here's where my plan goes into effect. My plan was to make a kind of a scene, because if I did, then maybe Jesus and this crowd would come toward me, and that would give me the opportunity to hit more people up for money. And so I jumped up on my feet and I yelled out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, I don't even know if he's in this crowd. Obviously, I don't know, but I'm thinking this crowd sure is big, so this is probably the crowd he's in. So I yell it again, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And I just kept yelling it. And evidently that annoyed some of the people that were at the beginning or at the front of this crowd, because this man comes over and he goes, hey, be quiet. Be quiet. Sit down. Be quiet. Stop yelling. So I thought, how dare you? Who do you think you are? You're not blind. You're not begging. You don't need what I need. And so guess what? I did what most people would do. I thought, how dare you? I'm going to yell louder. So I yelled louder. I said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. I just got louder and louder. I mean, the top of my lungs. I wanted everyone to hear me. I wanted to make a scene. And then, you remember I told you at the very start of what we were talking about, you had those moments that you didn't expect that literally change everything? This is that moment. Here's what happens. All of a sudden, the crowd begins to get quiet. And I thought I could hear my name. Now I'm thinking to myself, who knows me in this crowd? They're not even from Jericho. They're coming into Jericho. I don't even know who knows me. But I'm thinking I could hear my name, but it gets quieter and quieter. And it's silent. It is silent. And I can hear faintly my name. And that this person comes over and he goes, hey, you. Obviously, I can't see him. I don't know what he's talking about. He reaches down and he grabs me. You, the one that was yelling. Yeah, you. What? He says, come with me. He's calling you. He's calling me. Who's calling me? I heard my name. Who's calling me? Jesus is calling you. What? He said, come with me. So he takes me by the arm and he said, he's calling you. And I hear my name again. Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus. And so he leads me up and I guess I'm where Jesus is. And then it happens. Jesus reaches out his hand and puts it on my shoulder and he asks this question. What do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? And at that moment, something really strange happened. All my desire for money and begging somehow didn't even come to my mind. The only thing I said was, teacher, rabbi, I want to see. I want to see. All of a sudden, I'm tired of living in darkness. I don't want to live in darkness anymore. I just want to see. And he says back to me, your faith has made you well. Open your eyes. And there it was. It's that moment in time. My eyes are opened. Now, try to imagine this. This is too hard for you to get. I still can't even imagine it myself. Imagine that you have lived in a dark place your whole life, never seeing, and the first thing you gaze upon, the first thing you ever lay eyes upon, are the eyes of God looking right back at you. The eyes of God looking right back at you. Now, honestly, then I didn't know that. I know that now. I didn't understand that he was the Son of God and all of that then. I do now. But he's staring right back at me. And here's what's amazing. It's like he's not looking at my eyes. He's looking inside of me through my eyes. It's like he can see all the darkness of my life. Not just the fact that I can't physically see, but that everything inside of me is instantly revealed. It's like he can see right through me. That any part of my life that's dark, he's bringing light to. It was so amazing. I couldn't do anything. I just stand there. But around me, people start jumping up. They start shouting. They are excited because of what's happened to me. So I just join with them and we're all jumping and praising God. And and it's a party going right there on the road. And Jesus just stops and keeps right on walking. And that crowd that had been stopped and was so quiet now is erupted in noise. And here we go again. And I just jumped right in. I'm going to follow too. In fact, I couldn't wait to get back to town that short mile, because I'm blind Bartimaeus, and now I'm not. I am out of the darkness. I'm seeing things I've never seen before. So as I walk down that road, I'm looking around. I'm just taken by all the things that I can see. As we come into the city and people are loud, they're praising God, they're excited, I'm looking around. Now keep in mind, I've never seen the faces of people, and now I'm seeing multitudes of people. The crowd waiting in the city itself was huge as well. So we have a crowd coming, and there's a crowd waiting. People that I know, names that I know, people I've never seen, but I know their names in my very city. And so here I am joining with them, and it just begins to go down the streets of Jericho. As we walk down the streets of Jericho and we're following this Jesus, again, he stops, and all the crowd stops is with us. Everything just stops, kind of like he did on the road when he encountered me. And there's a guy sitting in a tree looking down on us. And Jesus just stops and looks up at him, and he says, "Zacchaeus, come down. I'm going to go to your house for dinner today." Now, when he said Zacchaeus, I thought to myself, how does he know him? How does he know? Now, I knew Zacchaeus. Now, I lived in Jericho. Now, even though I'd never seen him with my physical eyes, Zacchaeus had a reputation in our town. He's a wealthy tax collector, and he has a lot of money. And he's well known in our city for having parties with all of his fellow tax collectors, and anybody in town that didn't have a very good lifestyle, they hung out with that guy. And so I knew his name, but Jesus is calling him by name. "Zacchaeus, come down." And then it hits me, like a stone upside my head. He knew my name as well. It hits me that out on the road, he called me by name. And now here in Jericho, he's calling Zacchaeus by name. Does he know the name of everybody? Does he know their names? I was, again, amazed. I watched as he went into Zacchaeus' house, and I thought to myself, okay, now you're coming into Jericho, and you have talked to a blind guy that was an outcast, pretty much worthless to society. You're going to go to lunch or dinner at his house of the notorious sinner in town who's a terrible tax collector. These are probably not the two people written on most favored lists for Jericho, and yet those are the two people that he is called by name. He goes on into Zacchaeus' house, and the rest of us are just still milling around out in the street as he goes in to have a meal. And then, just a little while later, while we're out there just talking, out comes Zacchaeus out of his house, and he yells at the top of his lungs, "Hey, everyone, hey! I just want to say, I know that you all know that I have stolen from many of you. I've taken more money than I should have taken. I have done things that I shouldn't have done in how I've dealt with you. I just want you to know I'm so sorry for that. And I'm going to repay every one of you that I've misused. And I'm going to pay you more than I took from you. My life has been changed tonight. And I want you to know that because my life has been changed, I'm going to live the right way in this town." And we all just kind of stood there and listened as he talked about that. And in my mind, I thought, you know what? Zacchaeus, he's lived in darkness too. But something has happened where he's coming into a new light of life. Because his darkness was just as bad as mine. And now he has been awakened. Jesus left for Jerusalem the next day, I didn't have anything on my calendar. I would usually just be out begging, so I thought, I'm going to follow with this large crowd. We made our way down the road heading toward Jerusalem, about a 1 day's journey, and as we got there, there were people with palm branches, and they were shouting, and we joined in with them. We threw our cloaks down on the ground. Jesus gets on a donkey colt, and he rides into town, and people are shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Their faces were filled with joy. So beautiful to see these smiling faces, these beautiful faces filled with joy as Jesus comes into the city. I thought to myself, is he our Messiah? Is he the one that's going to lead us out of this terrible Roman rule, this rule that has been like a tyranny on our nation and pushed us down? Is he our Messiah, our King that's finally arrived, that's been prophesied for years? The excitement was there in the air. I followed around that week as things begin to take place and unfold in Jerusalem. I found a place to stay for the week, and I watched as different things took place. Jesus would continue to touch people's lives, and I got to see the things that I'd only heard about as he ministered to people and he healed them and he worked with them. And then he would teaching amazing stories and parables. And while that's taking place, those religious leaders that I'd heard so much about not liking him, I watched in front of me as they became more and more hateful. They became very, very jealous and envious. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is they actually would be behind the scenes, and it's like they were bringing people to where he was teaching and telling them to ask certain questions. It was pretty obvious that their goal was to trap him in some words that he was saying. Somehow, they wanted to get him. And I didn't understand it all then, but their goal was to destroy him. And as the week went on, the turmoil is growing. And you can tell how things are going to go from bad to worse. You know that feeling you have that things are not going well. Things are getting stirred up. And then in one fell swoop, things changed. I watched as this man Jesus that had done so much and was so kind to people, all of a sudden is now arrested. And I watch as they take him to a mock trial that doesn't even make sense. And these religious leaders, they manipulated people to help them and work with them. And pretty soon they've got the Romans involved. And it's almost like a game to the Romans to do something to one of these Jewish people. And so they get these Roman centurions involved and the Roman leaders involved. And these Roman soldiers take Jesus and they begin to mistreat him terribly, doing things. And they're beating him and smashing his face with their hands, and they should the crown of thorns and beat it down on his head, and there's just blood going everywhere. And I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, this same face, the face that I awoke to, that my eyes were open to, and looking into, these eyes are now being beaten and bloodied. And I'm thinking to myself, how could someone who had been so kind to others be treated so terrible? He'd been so kind, and his eyes radiated love and majesty and power and grace, and it just came out of him. And yet now that same face that looked right at me is being beaten beyond recognition. I mean, beaten. Then he was whipped, spit upon. And then finally that moment came when that same crowd that had numerous people in that crowd that I'd seen at the beginning of the week are now being incited against him. And you see words like that are being said, like, crucify him, put him to death. In my mind, I thought, why? What has he done? But those Roman soldiers gave him a cross to carry, and he begins to carry it and partially up the hill, and then another man will come and they will grab him and he'll carry it the rest of the way. And they get to the top of that hill and outside of Jerusalem there, and they lay Jesus on this cross, and they begin to nail nails into his hands and feet and nail him to that cross. They nail him to that cross, and there's a couple other criminals there being crucified too, but there's no amount of anger and hatred toward them like there is toward Jesus. It's like he is the whole point of their anger and destruction and hatred, and they drop him in the hole, that cross, and Jesus is on that cross. I watch as things unfold in front of me. All kinds of things are taking place, activities, people walking around, shouting, screaming, yelling, weeping. Jesus is saying some words from the cross. It gets dark for a while. There's all kinds of noise. I just can't take it all in. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but for once, I mean, for that brief moment when I'm watching all this, I thought, I can't believe I'm thinking this. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I thought it might be better to be blind again. Is this what I was awakened to? Is this why I could see? Is this why I was brought out of darkness, so I could see this? And for that brief moment, I thought, it was a lot easier to be blind. I wouldn't have had to see this terrible stuff I'm seeing in front of me. I watched as Jesus died, as he breathed his last and died, and that was more than I wanted to see. So I made my way back home. Like I said, it was a day's journey. I left late that afternoon and just headed home. I really didn't care if I made it home that night. I didn't care how far. I didn't really want to be in Jerusalem, and I didn't care if I ever went back to Jerusalem, to be honest with you. I just wanted out of there. And so I made my journey home and got home and began to just go back to what I was doing. I didn't really know what to do. I couldn't beg. I just needed to find where my place was in life. And then amazingly, 3 or 4 days later, one of the traders coming through Jericho said these words as he came through town. He said, "Hey, have you heard that Jesus fellow, they claim that he is no longer dead." Now hold it, that makes no sense at all. He was dead as dead can be when I left. Well, no, some of his followers have claimed that they have seen him and that he's actually alive. And they are saying that he has risen from the dead. Okay, well, I like I said, I really don't have anything to do. It's not like I have something that I have to do every day. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make the journey back up to Jerusalem. So I took a day and made the walk up to Jerusalem. And when I got there, I thought, I've got to find some of the people that followed him and talk to them. I tracked some of them down. It took me a while, but I found them and I began to ask them, hey, what happened? And they said that he had indeed risen from the dead. In fact, they said that he showed up and talked to them while they were in a room, walked right into the room through the wall and talked to them. And that they had seen him and that he was alive. I stayed in the city for a little bit longer, and sure enough, some of us were gathered and he showed himself real again, and there he was. I saw him with my own eyes. These eyes that could not see at one time, not only had they been brought to life, now they saw Jesus risen from the dead. It was amazing. It's amazing. I couldn't wait to tell anybody I came in contact with that he was actually alive. He was alive. And then it all came together for me. He is the Son of God. He is, and he began to teach, and the disciples began to talk to us, those that were his followers, about who he was and the things that he had said. I ran back as fast as I could to Jericho. Now, that's not as fast as it used to be. I'm not as spry as I once was, but I got back there as quickly as I could. I wanted to track down Zacchaeus, and I wanted to tell him about what had happened. And others, anybody that I came in contact with, and tell them. And then it all came to light for me. I realized something. When he did look into my eyes, he did exactly what I felt. He looked past me and saw the real me. He looked into the depths of my heart, because I've come to understand now that Jesus truly was the Son of God, and that his purpose for coming was to set us all free and to bring us out of our darkness and into this marvelous light of life. That he truly was our hope, and he truly is our hope. That he literally is the Son of God. I realized that the words that Jesus had said, and that the disciples, those who had followed him closely, told me he said, were true when he spoke to them and said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That no one comes to the Father except through me. That Jesus had told grieving people, I am the resurrection and the life. And now he had resurrected. Now he had come back to life. And that he was the resurrection and the life. And if we would believe him, we would never die but have eternal life. I realized that when I was told that he had told one of the religious leaders, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him would have everlasting life, that he was the Son of God, and he was the one that came to bring hope and life. I realized that when he had told people, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free, that the freedom I felt was not just a freedom from physical darkness, but it was a freedom from those things that have held me back for years in my life. That anger, that hatred, those things that had captured my heart. But then I've come to realize something even more. And that is that everyone is like Zacchaeus. Everyone is like me. We're all like that. Some of us show our blindness more. Some of us show our sin a little bit more. See, everybody knew Zacchaeus was a notorious sinner. He couldn't hide it. Everyone knew I was blind. I couldn't hide it. But in a way, all of us are living in darkness. In a way, all of us are bound up in the darkness at times. Here's what Jesus wants to do for every one of us. Jesus wants us to come to him, and here's what's amazing. He knows us all by name, just as he knew Zacchaeus and myself by name. He knows us all by name. And he calls us to himself, and he looks into our eyes, and he says, what do you want me to do for you? Just as he said to me on that day, what do you want me to do for you? I can bring you out of darkness. I can bring you to light. I can bring you out of sin. I can give you life. That's what he's offering us today. See, Jesus died and Jesus rose again. And because of that, Jesus is our only hope. Jesus wants to bring us out of darkness. Jesus is our hope today.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you would like to respond to today's service or would like prayer, email us at office@hopekansas.church. If you'd like more information about our church and want to catch up on past messages, visit our website at hopekansas.church. Have a great week.